Hello, you guys, and welcome in. We got One Piece chapter 1151, the extra spoilers today. If you have not read the spoilers for yourself, though, yet, I will be linking it down below, as well as typing it out in the pinned comment, so feel free to check it out there. But yes, we learned more details about the chapter, and I'm ready to just get into it, man. So, this week's chapter, I will admit, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but it is a setup chapter to get the boys in the underworld up to the Sun Realm. That is right. Come next week, or the week after, because there is a break next week, we will finally get Luffy and the gang up there against Emu. So I will tackle the spoilers kind of chronologically, but the first thing we see is what's happening in the Sun Realm. Killingham is going all out now. We see his actual hybrid transformation, which is weird to say, because I personally felt like he was already in his hybrid transformation, but he has another form, where his lower body takes on that of a horse, and his upper body becomes human. We finally get to see what is underneath that dragonic appearance, and he is a guy with short hair, long lower lashes, and sharp teeth. Redon says that he actually looks like Hoodie Jones a bit. And not just that, but he also holds a horn now, which he uses to control the dream monsters. This guy's like the freaking Pied Piper of the Nightmare Realm. So it's pretty cool seeing all this, right? Because this does also remind me of Impel Down to an extent, right? We're talking about Sommers using the Crimson Thorn attack a couple chapters back and how that is a namesake of Impel Down. Well, Killingham is kind of the same way, right? Because we saw a bunch of monsters, the Blue Gory, being led by Syvduck, who used a flute as a way to control them. So I think this is another Impel Down reference, and I wonder what else we're going to get as we go down the road, right? I mean, you could even look at Emu-Gunko and say that they're also an Impel Down reference because all the jailers have those weird wings as well, and they even have pitchforks. So I think as time goes on, the more we see of the Holy Knights, I think the more references of Impel Down that we'll actually get. So moving on, Emu-Gunko says that they will keep on rampaging. They'll keep on doing this until Elbaf's heart completely breaks down, which makes sense, right? You want them to swear fealty to you, so yeah, you gotta put them into submission. And I'm kind of curious, like, how is the quest against Jarul going, right? We don't really get any updates on that front. I would love to see if Jarul is actually standing his ground. Is Jarul fighting Dorian Brogy? Is he fighting the Dream Monsters? I'm actually excited for that, right? Because we already knew, right? From the get, we knew Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, Loki, they're all gonna get massive fights this arc. That was to be expected. But Jarul, in my opinion, is the wild card. So I am kind of looking forward to seeing how he's performing. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we get any of that this chapter. But come next week, or the week after, Jarul, the warrior mountain beard, might actually end up showing off, or at least that's what I hope, right? You know, people are like, Sai, like, I thought you hated the Giants. I still do. I still don't like Giants in general, but that doesn't mean I want the story to be bad for them, right? I still wish the best out of these dudes. You know, I love Elbaf so far. So we go now to the underworld, and we see that Skopper, of course, was saved by Chopper. He unleashes a massive guard point to break Skopper's fall. And that is when we see Luffy and the gang realize that Chopper and a mysterious man have arrived. What's interesting about this, at least to me, right? According to Redon's dialogue in the spoilers, I'm just going to read it verbatim. Luffy says, hey, Chopper fell down just now. And Sanji, the crew's observation haki specialist here, he says, huh? There was a big noise, but you saw who fell down? And Luffy says, no, I did not. And Loki says, it does seem like someone fell down. They're just beyond the mountains. And then Luffy says, wait, why did I know that that person was Chopper? And also, there's another person with him who is very weakened. And then Sanji follows that up and he says, if that is true, then this is no small matter. They must have fell here from the Sun World. And I thought this was really odd because it almost makes it seem like Luffy doesn't know that he has observation haki. Like, oh, like, why did I know that that was Chopper? Like, oh, Luffy, you've done this before, right? Maybe it's like the observation haki is so good, it shocked even Luffy himself. And then Sanji had no clue what was going on. So yeah, it was really interesting seeing that dialogue there. It does kind of imply that Luffy has awakened his observation haki to a new realm, that of which Loki is also a part of, because Loki sends his chopper too. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. I wonder where Oda is going with that. And I feel like this could be possibly their next upgrade. Scopper, from what we've seen, is really good with his observation haki, right? He was the only character who noticed the God Knight's arrival back in the castle. He went all the way from the underworld to the sun world just to see what the hell was going down. Scopper is that guy. So I wonder if Luffy and Loki, or maybe even Sanji, will all get observation haki training from Scopper. I don't think that would be super shocking. But yeah, in general, I would personally love to see what else observation haki can do. You know, minus sensing presences, minus future sight. What else could Oda do with observation haki that could make it worthwhile? And this could even play a part in how Usopp gets his moment here in Elbaf, right? This is some fan theory speculation now, but, you know, Usopp, we all expect him to do something massive. Usopp physically is weak, right? The only thing Usopp really has is his craftiness and his rare moments of observation haki. So if we do focus on observation haki here, maybe that's where Usopp is going to excel. But of course, that is just wishful thinking. You know, so far Elbaf has not been kind to Usopp, man. But, you know, one can hope and pray. One can hope and pray. So while this is all going down, Loki and Hardin have a little conversation on the side. And Loki says, hey, like, if you want to know what happened to King Harold, if you want to know why I killed him and what went down, Hardin, just take a knee. If you kneel, I will tell you. And of course, Hardin, being a proud warrior and being this guy's bigger brother, doesn't want to do it. You know, he has that pride in him, and he says that he doesn't want to listen to a word from the man who killed their father. And, you know, there's a part of me that's like, dude, we could have gotten the flashback right now. Hardin, you could have realized why Loki did all of this. But he just didn't take the knee. But I also can't blame him, right? Loki has been such an ass to Hardin time and time again that I can't really blame Hardin for not wanting to hear his side. But I do want to ask you guys, right? If you were put in Hardin's position, would you take the knee to hear Loki's story? And also, you know, you gotta imagine, from Hardin's eyes, Loki is a liar. There's a good chance that if Hardin took a knee, Loki could have just lied to him. What if Loki just took a picture and laughed at him, right? Like, look at you, Hardin. You're kneeling for me? What a loser. Like, I get why Hardin didn't do it. But man, just knowing that the answer was right there, it's a little bit painful, I will admit. So next up in the chapter, we see that Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji go off to find Chopper and the mysterious man who ends up being Scopper Gaban. While they're on that little adventure, Loki gets a phone call from Mosa, from Shaggy. And Mosa says that due to some situation, they will not be able to call him again. So this is their last phone Dendenmushi conversation. And now, you know, I feel like we're going to get the Mosa reveal pretty soon, but now we got to lock in our bets. Who do you guys think Mosa actually is? I've seen a lot of people saying that it's Jarul, and I don't think that's a bad guess, but I don't think it's Jarul. You know, given the situation right now, I like to believe that Loki already knows who Jarul is. Because Jarul was in the throne room, because Loki's the one who put the blade in Jarl's head potentially, I think that Loki would know if he was talking to Jarul for all these years. So instead, I want to say that Mosa is actually the owl in the library. All right, when you think about the owl, right, he won't be able to call again because the library is burning down, because he's going to have to leave, and because Elbaf is under attack. I feel like the owl makes the most sense. And even when you think about the name Mosa, Mosa translates to Shaggy. That is what the Viz English translated this name to. And owls are pretty damn shaggy, man. Like, that is how I rationalize it. And of course, Loki would not know what the owl sounds like, right? I think that's just how I fit it all in. And again, I don't think Jarl is a bad answer, because Jarl also has to do something as well, right? Because of Jarl's situation, he might not be able to call again. So Jarl fits in here, but I just don't see it being him. And then plus with Mosa, Mosa was describing a situation when we first heard about him where Loki was like, yeah, like if I was there, I would have slaughtered everyone in the room. So it's like, okay, like would that really be Jarl? Would Jarl be describing the night where King Harold died? Because that'd be odd, because Loki was actually there. So yeah, I think there's too many weird plot points that need to be resolved for it to be Jarl, whereas Mosa, being the owl, is a blank slate. We know nothing about that goddamn owl, so I think that could actually fit better. But again, that is just my opinion. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Do you still think it's Jarl? Do you think it's the owl? Or do you guys have a mysterious third candidate? Because I think that would also be pretty damn interesting. So, Luffy and the group run into Scopper and they're like, wow, you mean this guy was a part of Roger's crew? This guy knows Shanks? And they're all just talking about him. Hardin says, alongside Dark King Rayleigh, they were the wings of the Pirate King. In terms of strength, Scopper Gabon was probably number 3. And I thought it was really funny how the leakers described it. But they say that although Gabon is laying down and can barely move, he raises 2 fingers and he says, I was number 2. And I just think that's absolutely hilarious. And obviously this is a parallel to Zoro and Sanji, who are both wings of the Pirate King and who also both have the same rivalry where Zoro and Sanji try to have the higher bounty by the end of each arc. Like, I remember back in Wano, like, remember after Wano, they got their bounty updates, and then you saw, like, Ifrit, Janbei, Sanji versus King of Hell Mode Zoro in the background just fighting over it. Like, it's just a nice gag. So, Hardin wonders what happened to Gabon, right? Gabon is a strong character here in Elbaf. Something dastardly must be going up in the Sun Realm if Gabon is down here and wounded. That is when Chopper explains the whole situation. He tells them about the God Knights, about the hostages, and that is when we get the haki blast from last chapter, 1150, where Imu says this is mayhem, which is kind of interesting. I wonder how much time has passed. You know, it feels like so much happened in this little flashback, and I'm like, whoa, like that was all just in the span of, what, like 2 pages or something, right? But yeah, we get Imu's this is mayhem haki blast, and all of the Straw Hats in the underworld recognize it. Gabon, Zoro, Gerd, which is an interesting added. Gerd? Yeah, the leakers point out Gerd. Hardin, Luffy, Loki, they all realize that someone powerful is up there. Zoro says, what the? Gerd says, what is this? Luffy says, Chopper, I get it now. And Loki even says, wait, that haki was absurd. Gabon, though, had the most interesting line to me. Obviously, I like talking about One Piece, I like theorizing, but Gabon's line is odd because he says, hey now, this haki, ... And I wonder if he's just impressed by how immense it is, how powerful it is, or if Gabon has felt this haki before, right? And that wouldn't be odd, right? Gabon, Roger, Rayleigh, they learned the truth of the world. They learned about what happened during the Void Century. They know Imu and Joy Boy's story for the most part. So I wonder if they've met Imu at some point. And then plus there's God Valley, right? They were at God Valley. Like, who's to say that Imu wasn't there as well, right? Maybe they took over a vessel, maybe they felt this haki before. But yeah, the theorist in me was definitely piqued when I read those lines. So Loki goes on and he laughs a little bit about the whole situation. And he says, I believe you need it, don't you? You need my power. Loki, brother. Loki. 1 minute, he wants to destroy Elbaf. The next minute, he's like, yo, you want my help? Like, you want me to help you save Elbaf? I love that, right? Loki's just one of those characters. You don't really know what they're going to do next. I think we all kind of expected Loki to be a good guy at this point. Ever since Luffy fell down here and talked to him a second time, it's like, yeah, Loki's going to help us out. And now, I'm just curious, what do you guys think is going to happen? Apparently, they're going to go to the lift to go up to the Sun Realm, which I'm kind of excited to see that lift. Like, is it an elevator? Is it like a gondola? Is it like a device that flies up like a cloud? I'm not too sure. But what do you guys think is going to happen here? Do you think Loki's going to get freed? Is Luffy simply going to fly up first? Is Sanji going to fly up first? And once they make it to that Sun Realm, we do have to ask that question. But who's gonna go where? Is Hardin gonna go to the village? Is Loki gonna go to Dorian Brogy? Is Loki gonna go straight to Imu? Because Loki very much so reminds me of Luffy, right? He's just this hard-headed captain. He always wants to go after the big bad villain. He sensed the haki. So I wouldn't be shocked if Loki and Luffy go to Imu together. And if that happens, brother, you know, like what's up there? And of course, we have to remember that Gunko was the one who brutalized Loki, right? Shamrock was part of it, but Gunko was over here kicking him, punching him, and he did say he wanted revenge on both Shamrock and Gunko. So maybe this is his rematch, right? So I would love that. A Luffy Loki double team. I mean, hell, that right there is exactly what the mural even depicted, right? We had a bunch of characters fighting a demon who was most likely going to be Emu, and Luffy, the sun god, and Loki, the giant with a spear, was right there fighting him. So maybe this is the start of that mural, brother. But yes, with that being said though, guys, let me know what you thought about this chapter down below. How do you like the extra spoilers? Are you excited? Personally, this feels like a really nice setup chapter. I did enjoy it. I can't wait to see more of Loki's personality fleshed out. He seems like a fun character. You know, at first, I wasn't the biggest fan of Loki. You know, he felt like he was trying a little bit too hard. But now that we know what he's really like, I've really come to enjoy him a lot. But, of course, that's my opinion. I would love to hear your guys's. And also, we will be going through the comment section and reading what you guys have to say in the next couple of days. So if you drop a comment, there's a good chance that we might actually read it. But until then, you guys take care, stay safe, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.